Hey, what's going on everyone? We have the patch notes of patch 14.9. This is going to be a pretty juicy one because they're going to be making a bunch of system changes. They're going to be redoing the meta as well. So let's just get right into the summary. We have for the buffs, Arcanist, Duelist, Umbral, Storyweaver as the trait buffs, Kog'Maw, Riven, Elune, Bard, Tristana, Zoe, Volibear, and Morgana for the champions. And when we read the actual changes, I'll cover a brief snippet on how I think they will affect the meta. And then after that, we also have 8 augments buffed. Next up, we're reworking Heavenly and nerfing Dryad, Fortune, Darius, Kayn, Lissandra, and 5 different augments. And they're also adding 20 new artifacts and 5 new support items. In case you missed my rundown of those before, it's on the channel, youtube.com/bunnymuffins. And then apparently we have to use Riot Vanguard now. So unfortunate. I just don't like random stuff running on my PC. It's more for League, like I don't even know how you cheat in TFT, but there's like a Y article over here. You guys can watch that if you want to learn more about that. DirectX 9 deprecation, all right, whatever. System changes, what I'm more excited for, the actual TFT changes. I hate how we have to go like skip a couple things before we get into those, but whatever the case, we have player damage being adjusted. So they changed player damage last patch and their goal was to simplify damage calculation. So they're gonna make it even more simple maybe. They're gonna make losses in stage 4 to 6 hurt more, and they say that we might even need to raise damage even more after that. So starting in stage 4, they're gonna change from 7 to 8 damage, stage 5, 9 to 10, and then stage 6, 11 to 12. Nothing too crazy there. Obviously games will end a little bit faster, but it's not gonna flip the meta by any means, even though it is interesting. So if you're going a little greedier before, maybe you have to go a little less greedy now. Think of all those games where you live with like 3 or less life, or 4 or less life, maybe even 6 or less life, depending on how much you lose during those stages. And then that's pretty much what's gonna be the difference. Now onto leveling costs, they're gonna be adjusting the 4 cost 3-star meta, which was frankly very annoying. I'm glad I kind of like skipped last patch because all my friends were just crying about this a ton. Ironically, they removed the augment everything must go, which led to a lot of 3-star 4 costs, but it still ended up being a 3-star 4 cost meta. So pretty happy for these changes. I wonder if this is the best way to do it. They did both leveling cost changes and shop role changes. So level 8 to 9 is going to be a little more expensive by 8 gold. That's actually quite a bit. Level 9 to 10, however, is going to be reduced from 84 to 80. So overall, getting to level 10 is going to cost 4 more gold than normal. And no one really ever makes it there anyways, so I doubt this is going to be game changing. The most important change is level 8 to level 9. I should correct myself. Level 10 does happen, but it's only in like games where you're trying to like get super first place or something like that, or if it's like super heavy econ. But level 8 to level 9, this one's going to have a much bigger effect on the game because getting that extra unit in, you have to be delayed 1 turn now because 8 gold is going to be the difference between 1 round of interest and round gold. So you're going to have to somehow survive 1 extra round before you power spike. Shop roll odds are going to be adjusted as well. They're going to increase 2 cost odds and then reduce 4 cost odds by 2% at level 8. And then at level 9, they're going to reduce 4 cost odds by 5% and increase 1 cost odds by 5%. So pretty big changes there. It's going to be much more difficult to 3-star 4 cost. It's still going to be possible, but it's not going to be something that you could reliably go for in like half your games. Maybe it's going to be in 1/10 your games or something like that. But now let's move on into the encounter changes. So RE player health 15 to 10. What they're trying to do is make the games a little less crazy, and I'm all for this. Like inflation hit me hard throughout the past couple of years, and inflation in TFT, honestly, it hit me even harder. There's way too much random stuff going on that's all related to this 3-star 4 cost nonsense that we saw up here. So they're going to be making a bunch of the crazier stuff happen a little less often. I noticed this particularly in the second patch, I believe it was, where a lot of players were going for Fortune and they got the biggest cash out, and this was happening in like every 5 games or something like that, people getting 3-star legendaries. Well, not that often, but I essentially saw the biggest cash out like every 2 days or something like that, and it doesn't feel special when it's like that. So I'm glad that they're lowering a bunch of the wackiness. Kayn 5/4 death game appears more often. I don't know about that one. Orange choose an artifact appears more often. Cho'Gath appears less often. Diana appears less often, and then Aurelia free move carousel, I hate this one so much, appears less often too. Next up, we have Nico lesser dupe carousel, less often. Spatula carousel, less often. Radiant carousel, same thing. Radiant carousel can no longer be seen on stage 2. And then Kha'Zix's lower cost XP for 3 turns has been removed. Yeah, this one was a huge troublemaker for all those like wacky wild games. And then Cho'Gath duplicators has been removed. Nico duplicator carousel has been removed. And then Syndra 2-star 4-cost carousel has been removed. All right, good stuff there. I'm all for this. TFT really has gotten too inflationary. I like making this example. In set 1, I got a 3-star legendary once the entire season, and I was playing like more than I was now, I think. At least it felt like it. But then in pretty much every other set after that, like it happens a couple of times. So I don't know, it's way too easy to get nowadays. Now we're on to artifact anvils. Anvils are now pick 1 of 4 instead of pick 1 of 3, and then portable forge is being changed to 1 of 4 every single stage. So what this means is portable forge is going to be better in the earlier parts of the game and worse in the later parts because items kind of don't scale that well into the late game. But maybe there are some artifacts that are specifically really good in the late game and maybe you aim for those. Maybe that's how they're balancing it, because they're also removing portable forge plus and plus plus because they're making it all uniform. Next up, we have large changes. This is going to be traits starting off. Arcanist AP is going to be buffed up a little bit at the later stages. No one has really been playing 6 or 8 Arcanists that much on purpose, so hopefully this gives them a little bit more juice. The team AP is getting buffed up at 6 and 8 as well. Dryad health per stack going to be nerfed at 6 Dryad. 6 Dryad was completely bonkers, so also an AP change there. I'm all for it because getting that extra spatula made this comp so powerful. Then again, they're making spatulas appear less often, so perhaps this wasn't that necessary. Who knows? Duelist attack speed per stack is being buffed up in the middle stages of Duelists. Duelists have kind of been forgotten because of the Titan's Resolve nerf. Fated set Omnivamp bonus being buffed up by 3%, and then they're also fixing a bug. Fated set Omnivamp no longer applies before resistances come into effect and only applies to damage from attacks and abilities. Let's say if they talk about this here, they apparently benefited from damage from items, and that was making it too strong. So a lot of these bugs, a great way to kind of mitigate the effect of these is by doing some data checks. So if you go to teamfight.lol, head on over to stats, traits, and then type in something like Fated, you could see how well each Fated threshold kind of performs, and you could kind of judge, oh, if I hit a set, a lot of people are using set as a Fated length. Maybe it's OP, maybe it's not OP. Data checking kind of solves a lot of these bugs because you'll know if it's good or not, you know? You don't actually have to know if the bug exists or not. Fortune 7-piece flat bonus going to be reduced 25 to 12. 7-piece average orb value 16 to 8. Holy cow, pretty big nerf. Fortune adjusted several cash out options. Apparently they did listen to me when I made the intro of this video, where I said the biggest fortune payouts happen way too often. Heavenly no longer scales with unit star levels. Heavenly now gives 70% more stats to Heavenly units, and then Heavenly bonus stats are going to be adjusted accordingly. Omnivamp bonus is going to be nerfed a bit, so now when you go Heavenly, you actually have to play around the Heavenly units, not so much the splashable aspect of it. I wonder what made Heavenly so different from the guild trait of the past, which is kind of what it's modeled off of, because I remember there are definitely some pure guild builds that use like guild talent as like the main carry, but apart from Wukong, there isn't really a carry unit for Heavenly because for some reason there's no 4-cost Heavenly unit. Storyweaver Kale on hit damage is going to be buffed up a little bit in the middle stages, and then Storyweaver Kale Scroll of Haste AS per stack bumped up 1%. Umbral execute threshold going to be buffed up at later parts. Holy cow, 45% to 60%. The issue is no one's playing Umbral from before. I wonder if it's viable now. I'm assuming some sort of like a loon comp will work best with this buff, because that AoE could be scary if it executes multiple units all at once. Next up we have is tier 1 units. Darius ability on hit damage is going to be nerfed in early stages, but staying the same at 3-star. Darius is the best early game unit, I think. Can hold any item pretty much and just completely carries your team as a lone 2-star even without synergies. So yeah, good on them for nerfing this. And also Umbral's really good in the early game too because it gives a flat shield. Absolutely disgusting unit, but they're nerfing that. Still gonna be good though. Kog'Maw ability damage is gonna be buffed up at 3-star and 2-star. He's been struggling to get through beefy targets ever since we made it take longer for him to stack up increased range. A little more acidic power will help his vomit rockets melt through those pesky HP bars. Makes sense. Units tier 2, Riven ability damage gonna be buffed up a ton. Holy cow. So Riven, you don't really itemize her. You could use her as an AD item holder before, but now maybe you could use her as a carry. That'd be kind of cool. She is a triple trait unit. Normally triple trait units aren't really that strong individually because they're carried more so by their traits. Units tier 3, a loon attack speed buff. Oh, so this plus the Umbral could be an Elune meta, who knows? Bard 50 to 55 AD, Tristana 55 to 60. Tristana ability damage also going to be bumped up a bit. They're increasing the AD ratio but reducing the AP, but since you mainly build AD on her, I think it is a buff. Tristana's ability AD buff percentage is going to be nerfed a bit to kind of compensate that, and then Volibear healing going to be bumped up across the board. Volibear got really weak after the Titans nerf. Zoe ability damage can be buffed up a bit. Same with the ricochet damage because Zoe is kind of left alone. I wonder if you could do like a Zoe reroll with Arcanist, go like Alawi 3, Zoe 3, perhaps a Mumu 3, maybe even a Lux 3. With like 6 to 8 Arcanists, that could possibly be a pretty decent build. Late game, of course, is going to be capped out with Lysandra. Maybe that comp works. Maybe we have to add that to the meta snapshot at bunnymuffins.lol/meta, where of course it's going to be updated every single Friday as it has been for the past couple of years. Next up we have is tier 4 units. Kayn armor nerf. Morgana ability damage going to be buffed up at 3-star. Morgana is now more likely to cast her ability at clumps of enemies. Wait a minute, they're buffing Morgana? I don't get this at all. Morgana's already OP in my opinion. She's just like one of the best support units right now at 4 costs, and they're just buffing it. Syndra ability starting butterfly is going to be buffed up a little bit early on. So Arcanist getting like 10 different buffs here. We're probably going to see some Arcanist in this next patch. Lysandra health being nerfed a bit. Ability loot chance being dropped a bit, so I guess they're kind of hitting Arcanist a little bit, but she's not really known to be like an Arcanist unit. You just play her because you want more items, or you want Porcelain because Porcelain builds are really good right now. Next up are augments. We have over encumbered bench slots being changed from 2 to 1, pumping up, base AS 8 to 6, Triforce HP being bumped up, big gains bumped up. I don't really see people taking this that often. I kind of want to try it a bit more. Built different being nerfed. So interesting, they nerf 4 costs, but then they also nerf built different, which is built around 4 costs. I think they did the opposite before, and then it led to built different being very good. Now they're doing what they're doing right now, and I'm guessing like we're probably not going to be seeing that much built different. Then again, the nerfs aren't like that big by any means, but a nerf is a nerf, you know? Call to Adventure stats per 2 takedowns is going to be buffed up a little bit. Dragon Spirit healing component 8,000 to 7,000. Dynamic Duo plus 5 gold to that one. Learning Dispel base AP being like almost doubled. Wow. This is going to be really good with Kog'Maw, I imagine, or like a Lux reroll. Mind over Matter continues to be disabled until we can ship a fix next patch. Pandora's Items 2 now gives 2 random components instead of a random completed item. Definitely a buff there. Raining Gold 9 to 8, Slammin' Plus, base XP gain 12 to 10, and then Accomplice 4 to 2 gold, Build-A-Bud 6 to 8, Call to Chaos 66 to 58. Same with the XP, so the generic Call to Chaos are being nerfed a bit, and then they're buffing the 3-star 3 cost. Yeah, this one's really annoying to get. Going along, it's going to get plus 2 gold, Infernal Contract has been disabled, Trash to Treasure has been disabled, and then Portable Forge, we have the change from before. So overall, most of the time, all their augment changes are pretty much just data checks. So all the bad ones, essentially, if you like do the data check yourself by going to stats, then augments, they pretty much buffed all the bad ones and nerfed a bunch of the good ones. Like we could see built different there, for example. So that's pretty much what most of those are. No complaints there. Artifacts, we have 20 new artifacts. I'm actually not going to go over these because we have a better video doing that on the channel. I'll try to leave a card here, but if I don't, remind me down in the comments below where we go over every single item, what champions I think they could be used on. It's just a much more useful video in general. Support items, same thing, but they are going to be making some changes to Virtue of the Martyr, 6.5 max health to 7, 13 to 14 as well, so a small buff. And then after dying, instead of getting empowered heals for 10 seconds, you'll always get 2 empowered heals. Wait, is that better or worse? Do they talk about it here? It is a buff. Wait, what do they mean by 2? I don't really get that. Apparently, it makes it more consistent. Oh, I see what it means. Because it happens for 10 seconds and then it heals every so often. Okay, that makes sense. So you just automatically get the heals now instead of like sometimes the timing being weird. Now onto the small changes. Units, Lilia abilities, small orb damage is going to be buffed up at 3-star. Holy cow. Ornn 3-star items forge 8 to 6. I thought he just gave everyone items. Okay. Ornn 3-star now forges radiant items. Holy cow, that's going to be the best 3-star 4 cost by far. Silas ability is going to be buffed up at... Okay, so they're just buffing a bunch of 3-star 4 costs. Hilarious. Augments Behemoth Crest, gain a Thresh being changed to Shen and a Thresh. Dragon Lord, Diana and Janna. So they're making a lot of the trait crests a bit better by doing data checks. Kindred is being changed to Kha'Zix and Kindred for Grim Harvest. Sage Crest, You also get a Zyra and a Diana. I guarantee you, if we look all of these up in here in the augment stats, probably not going to be doing so hot. Story Weaver now also gives a Garen. Warden Crest, gain a Jackson and a Mumu. Behemoth Crown, gain a Sunfire Cape, Yorick, and Thresh. Sunfire, is that more useful than Warmogs? I actually don't know. Maybe Warmogs is a bit better. Sage Crown, gain a Diana, is being changed to Zyra and Diana. Well, in the early game, you want Sunfire Cape, but in the late game, I think you want the Warmogs. Gonna skip the double up thing. Bug fixes set. Faded Omnivamp, we already talked about that. Aurelia no longer triggers on hit effects with every blade interchange. She now only triggers on hit effects on hits where she triggers on attack effects. Mythic, Faded, and Ink Shadow emblems will no longer be offered without the trait active on 3-2 or 4-2. And then Fortune Cash Out, that gives +1 to all trait, now shows up properly in the trait tracker. Team No, the Teemo Carousel encounter can no longer give 2 spatulas. I noticed that one time, I think. That was maybe like a month ago. To prevent a glitch involving item duplication, items can no longer be removed from units with the Masterwork Upgrade Armory open. He doesn't see well. Nautilus no longer sometimes casts his ability backwards. Azir can no longer spawn a permanent soldier if he casts as combat ends. Ornn items are no longer made permanent after combat ends in a tie, and then the augment prop now faces the correct direction, and then Kayn can't get to them. Kayn's ability no longer fizzles against cornered units, and then Virtue of the Martyr empowered heal functions properly, and then Crown Guarded augment no longer provides double the intended bonus. Wait a minute, is Crown Guarded even good? I swear this was like a mediocre augment. It's a 4.71, so it's actually a bad augment, but it's going to be made worse without any compensation buffs. So that's kind of interesting there that they fixed the bug. The data's not looking good for it, but I didn't see any changes here for it. So overall, not a bad patch, I think. Like, I'm a bit scared of the Elune and Arcanist builds. It's probably going to be AP meta. Duelists, are they back? I'm sure they'll be playable now instead of unplayable. I don't think they'll be OP off first glance, but I could be wrong. I'm really glad that Fortune's being changed, and then I wonder how big of an effect the new artifacts will have on the new patch, because there are a lot of them. They're like 25 new type of items, but obviously they don't happen all that often. But my guess is we're going to be leaning a little bit more into AP paths this patch. Like pretty much Kog'Maw, Elune, Arcanist all got buffed, and Arcanist got a pretty sizable buff. Like almost everything got buffed about them except for Lissandra, who got nerfed. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What comps do you think will kind of rise up and above? But as always, don't forget to check out the meta snapshot on Friday on the YouTube channel or on the website bunnymuffins.lol/meta.